Okay, we need to talk about Jake from State Farm
Why is that?
because I'm very uncomfortable with this.
You're uncomfortable with Jake specifically, or
I'm uncomfortable with this new campaign
why?
because are you familiar with the origins of Jake from State Farm?
Seems like the first commercial I saw with Jake was the one where the guy's up at like 3 in the morning talking to him on the phone.
Yes, it is.
And I don't know if it was a thing before that, or if that was the first part
No,
of the thing, or if that was a thing that was just by itself, and then people made it a thing.
no. The first commercial was years ago. I don't know how many, but it was quite a few years ago. And it's this guy talking to somebody on the phone, and his wife comes downstairs and says, "Who are you talking to?" And he says, "It's Jake from State Farm." And she says, "Jake from State Farm at 3 in the morning?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Give me that." And she takes the phone and she says, "What are you wearing, Jake from State Farm?" And you turn to this guy in a cubicle, and he looks and he goes, "Khakis."
Khakis, yeah.
And she
Khakis.
says, "She sounds hideous." And the guy says, "Well, she's a guy." So,
Wow, I
um,
don't remember that part. I just
that's because you probably have seen a recent version. So,
oh
this was years ago. And uh, now I've been seeing they're playing this commercial, but I only watch YouTube and stuff. So I don't ever watch the full commercial. You know, it goes away. You can skip in 5 seconds, and I do. But then I saw this commercial with this completely different dude just sitting in a cubicle, and his coffee mug says Jake, and he lifts it up to drink, and the bottom says from State Farm. And I'm like, he's not Jake from State Farm. That's a different guy. And then I've seen a lot of commercials with him and I'm like, what the heck is happening? And then I look. One time I had an unskippable version of the original commercial, and it's the same original footage except that part, and they have this new guy in it. So we have erased the original Jake from State Farm.
I mean, yeah, I seem to recall.
What happened to him? Did they kill him?
I seem to recall the first time I saw the Jake from State Farm. Okay, this is how I understood it, because I've seen this commercial recently,
Yeah, me
right?
too.
But I don't know if I saw it years ago, because I don't remember that ending you're talking about.
Yeah.
But when I saw it recently, okay, I need to back up. So I've been seeing commercials with Jake from State Farm in them, and that's fine or whatever. I didn't really connect it to the older commercial, but then I saw the older commercial came on with the guy at 3 in the morning or whatever, and I thought,
Yeah.
oh. And while the commercial was going, I was thinking to myself, oh, they made this commercial a long time ago with Jake from State Farm, and then a few years later they decided to make Jake from State Farm a thing. But as the commercial kept going, when they cut to Jake from State Farm, that was the new Jake from State Farm, all right.
Yes.
But then
Yes.
I also remembered at that moment that wasn't the same Jake, but I couldn't remember what the other Jake looked like. I just knew it wasn't the same guy. So it seems like what they did was they have this new thing with Jake, and it's like, well, let's put the new Jake in the old commercial. It seems what they did.
Yeah.
That's like whatever. I mean, I didn't. I mean, you know.
No. Something happened to the original Jake. I'm
What?
not comfortable with this.
No, come on. Like, what happened to him? Do you think?
I don't know. I mean, maybe
have-
he ended up in the East River. Like, I don't know.
No, it's
Scary.
I don't even know. Like, some ad agency somewhere said, "Hey, you remember that commercial we had with Jake from State Farm? Let's do that again."
Ooh, I want to see who's calling.
You do? All
Yeah,
right,
it's fun when we get phone calls on the podcast.
I'll wait. See, but I mean, we canceled caller ID, so
Oh.
and so the answering machine is going. I probably won't hear it. I mean, if someone starts talking on the answering machine, it'll probably be us.
It's probably about the extended warranty on your vehicle, or about the percentage rate on your credit card.
Or the IRS is coming after me.
Yes, IRS make lawsuit on you.
But yeah, when they decided to make these Jake from State Farm things, why they went with a different actor than they had done it before, I don't know.
Because they killed the original.
Now
He knew too much.
The new guy is black.
Yes.
The previous guy was not. I don't know if that had anything to do with it.
Previous guy was, I think, white. I got a vaguely Hispanic vibe, but I think he was just white.
So maybe it was a demographics thing. Like, well, we're trying to get a certain demographic. I mean, I don't know. They pick actors for things for a lot of reasons that maybe would disturb people. Maybe they would think they pick them.
I mean, the real answer is the original guy was specifically cast to be kind of doughy, schlubby dude. And this guy is very young and attractive and energetic. So he fits much more to do a whole campaign as opposed to the other guy who knows where the heck he is now because it's been years. But that really ruins my joke, so I wasn't going to bring all that part up. But since you were asking.
Yeah, you're right about that. The more you describe the previous guy, he wasn't the kind of guy who you would cast as a spokesperson.
No, he was definitely not a spokesperson. This new guy is.
Oh, yeah, definitely is. He's like you said, he's very charismatic.
Again, this is not funny. What is wrong with you?
Well, what makes you think
it was a great conspiracy where they just hid, like, the original Jake got disappeared, but no.
What makes you think it was funny to begin with?
Because I came up with it. That's how I know.
That's not always a good indicator.
It is for me.
Okay. Well, darn it.
What are you looking for?
A book.
All right. Just to your left, there's a bunch of them.
A specific book, obviously.
Oh, I don't know. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Magical Talking Hat Podcast, the only podcast that dares to show you on camera some dude eating chili fries with a spoon. It looks like spaghetti, but it's chili fries.
Okay.
I'm Tony.
And I'm William, and this is episode 485.
My brother just asked what episode we were on.
You said, I don't know, that's William's job.
No, I actually knew.
You did?
Yeah, Trish says, 500 and something. And I'm like, no, 500's a big deal. We are at 485 tomorrow.
I gotta stop looking. I'm sure if anyone's watching, which I don't think very many people watch, but they will be annoyed if
I think some do. Yeah, I don't know. I know at least one guy that I used to work with, David, has subscribed to our channel, so thanks, David. And a guy that I used to work with who I think kept his job. I don't know if he listened or not, but Andrew, I hope you're kicking in. The problem is when we get new people, usually they're like, they do one episode, they're like, you guys are great, and then they never listen to another episode. Well, if you are continuing, welcome, gentlemen, to the auspicious ranks of the Hatters.
One problem with listening rather than watching is I've noticed this because I'll just watch the YouTube thing now rather than listen. The sound cuts out sometimes, including when you say some funny thing and I start laughing. You don't hear me laugh, you only see me laugh. So I can only imagine people listening to the podcast, sometimes you crack some joke and then there's just like silence for a second.
Yeah. And that's Zoom's problem. That's not YouTube's fault.
Oh, yeah, right.
That's because of Zoom.
Well, what I'm saying is...
It's more confusing when you can't see it.
That's right. They won't know why is there silence, or if they've listened a long time and they know the kind of things I usually laugh out loud about, where's William's laugh? That's weird. He's not laughing, but there's silence, and that's also weird.
Also, they can't watch me eat chili cheese fries on camera. That's got to be a loss.
Yeah, I guess.
Today's episode is brought to you by Freddy's Steak Burgers and Frozen Custard.
Oh, I thought we were going to have, this episode was going to be brought to you by Stouffer's Mac and Cheese on Tap. I thought that was
No, actually, this episode was originally going to be brought to you by Moxie, the only robot that can see into your soul. But then I got Freddy's Steak Burgers, which we tried recently. A few weeks ago, I think, It's pretty good. It's basically, I haven't had, they have frozen custard like Culver's, so people like to compare them to Culver's. Their food outside of frozen custard is Steak and Shake. It's 100% Steak and Shake. So I don't know why people keep comparing it to Culver's, because it's steak burgers. It's the smashed kind, and they got the little thin fries, and they have chili. They don't have chili mac, which is sad, but otherwise pretty good. And my brother was asking about it. My brother was in town yesterday very quickly with his youngest, and so they were leaving today, and he was asking about that place, and so we were texting about it, and afterwards Trisha's like, I really want it now, so we had it for dinner.
That's good.
For those of you just joining us, let me walk you through this deal. We have a hat. It's just off camera here. Not his hat. It's a different hat. It's magical in that it has its own email address, themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com. Folks like yourselves, all the good people out there, wonderful people. God, it's so distracting watching you wandering around off camera and stuff. What are you doing?
It's just bothering me that I can't find this book.
Did you need it for the podcast?
I could, but I'll get to it later. Just go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right, people write into this email address, themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com, with little notes, comments, questions, topics, stuff like that. The hat magically transmogrifies those emails into little note cards with the information written on them physically, that manifest physically within the hat itself. Excuse me. It's far too distracted, still looking for a book. I can see it in your eyes. Servants.
Shut up.
And chili cheese fry eating servants. Draw note cards out of the hat at random. Read them on the air. Talk about them till we're bored. That's the whole show except the parts that aren't, which is the vast majority of it. So how's your week been other than not being able to find that book?
Well, the reason I'm looking for it is because I learned this week that Denny O'Neil passed away a few weeks ago.
Who's Denny O'Neil?
He's a comic book author and editor.
Okay.
And I can't believe I didn't know. I mean, I get news from lots of sources that report on comic book relevant things, and he was a big deal. So I was really surprised I didn't know. I heard from my brother just a few days ago, and I guess I'm a little surprised he didn't tell me, but I'm sure he thought that I knew. But the book I'm looking for is one he wrote. He wrote a book on comic book writing that I have and have read. The thing about Denny O'Neil was he and Neil Adams, they did several DC titles back in the 70s, particularly Batman. And in his work with Adams, pretty much defined for my brother and I what comic books should be. All comic books, we kind of unconsciously compare to theirs as the standard of what a comic book should be. It doesn't mean that they have to be exactly like them. It's just a quality thing. It's like, whatever the art looks like, if it doesn't look like a lot of, is it striking in the same way? Does it inspire the same type of emotional energy or whatever? And whatever the stories are, do they stir the same kind of emotions, or are they exciting stories? Denny O'Neil was, I think, one of the stories he was the most famous for, you might be familiar with, was he did the story about Green Arrow and Speedy, discovering Speedy was a drug addict or whatever.
I vaguely remember that. Yeah, heroin, right?
Yeah. He's also responsible for taking away Wonder Woman's powers.
Oh!
For that period of time.
And then she just did Kung Fu.
Right.
I recently discovered that in 1984, there was a TV movie that was meant to be a pilot for a series of Wonder Woman, and it was that version of Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Right. Well, in later years, he talked about how he thought that what he was doing was a feminist thing. Like showing how capable she could be just as an ordinary woman, and ordinary women could read the comic book and relate to her and things like that. Of course, feminists had to explain to him that, like, well, lots of male characters have superpowers in the comic books, and that's fine, right? Nobody has a problem relating to them. So why do we have to take the superpowers away from the female character? For you know what I mean? It didn't really make sense, and he realized.
Well, it seems to be that's because the review I watched of the TV movie had a similar take in that it sounds like he made a really cool character that just shouldn't have been Wonder Woman.
Exactly right. That in fact,
that's the TV movie. They're like, this movie is actually really good and does a lot of cool things that movies of the time didn't, but it's dumb that she's Wonder Woman and it doesn't play into the story at all and it looks weird.
Yeah.
Like if this had just not been Wonder Woman, it would have been great.
That's the way I felt about it. Although I mean, you know, the whole, like you said, the whole kung fu thing. She, you know, sometimes her trainer was a Chinese gentleman who I don't think
played by Milton Berle, I assume.
Probably not always portrayed the best way. Although honestly I haven't read it, but that's what I heard. But anyway, you know, Denny O'Neil he just was an incredible writer and an incredible storyteller and an incredible editor. I learned things that I didn't know about him, like he actually had some impact on G.I. Joe because I think he was editing those comic books when they came out. The biographer I was looking at said he came up with the idea in Transformers with the cars being the good guys, you know, the Autobots being the good guys, and their leader being a truck named Optimus Prime. But he came up with that.
You sure I sound okay to you?
Yeah. Why?
You sound a little tinny. I'm not now that you're talking a bunch.
No, well, I mean, it could be, you know, the microphone's not that close. Kind of trying to talk toward it.
Get real close to it. Let's make sure it's actually the one picking you up.
Oh, yeah, is it? Well,
it is not.
Hard. It's not?
No.
What about this thing?
No.
My computer doesn't have a microphone. All right, hold on. Oh, that's weird.
The only podcast in the world willing to do sound checks during recording.
It's oh. I should have noticed because when my mic's working.
You're muted now, so any talking you say won't come through. So, I mean, that's fine. Fix your thing, but you just sounded in mid-sentence, and we didn't get the second half. So I'm going to vamp. Anyway, Freddy's Steak Burgers. For all your steak burger needs. Also, some weather we're having, huh? How about that local sports team? They've been great. In this image, it really looks like my beard is way darker than my hair. I don't know how I feel about that. So, hopefully my mic's working. Wouldn't it be great if this was just an episode where it's just silence the whole time? It's like a silent movie. That would be strange.
Did you hear that?
Oh, God, you sound so much better now. Sorry, yeah, there's going to be a whole bunch of all that stuff you were talking about. Nobody's going to give a shit because they're going to be like, he sounds like he's in a shoebox.
All right,
Sorry,
anyway.
I thought you sounded fine, and then as you were talking enough, I was like, this does sound weird.
I have no idea what microphone it was using. It wasn't using the microphone on my camera right there. It wasn't using my microphone, my, what do you call it? Yeti. So there must be a microphone on the actual laptop itself, but I wasn't aware that there was one.
It's a secret microphone.
Anyway, sorry about that. But yeah, I have his
butthole.
I have his book, and I was going to show it. And you know what? I kind of should read it again because I read it a long time ago. I haven't. It was for comic book writing, kind of especially, and some of the writing I've been doing recently might benefit from some of those insights. I'm not writing a comic book per se, but I'm.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of, it would benefit, but I can't believe I can't find it because it was important enough to me that it should be right on this bookshelf. This is like where all my main books are. But it's really driving me nuts.
Your wife stole it. Get her.
No, it might be in the other room. Anyway, so what about your week? How's it been?
Today is weird, but in general, very good. I'm really digging this writer slash homemaker thing. Although so far it's mostly homemaker. I'm getting through my parents' edits, which are on a physical copy, so it's slower for me. And it's also hilarious. I'm gonna have to talk to my mom and see if she looked at they edited the same copy because I gave them two and they wanted to keep one. And I'm pretty sure my dad edited second because my dad argues with my mother's edits a lot.
That's great.
She's like, you should change this to this, and then he writes next to it, I think it's fine as is. Or disagree. And so like it's hilarious. So I've been going through that, but otherwise I've mostly been doing homemaking, and yeah, it's a good start. Today was weird. Last night I slept poorly because I kind of didn't feel great, and then I woke up and I still felt a little off, so I went back to sleep until like 11:30, and Trish just took the day off and she went back to sleep, and then I was up for a couple hours, and then I took a nap until basically right before this. So basically I have slept 15 of the last 19 hours. So a little weird today.
I mean, that doesn't sound good. Are you having any other weird symptoms, or
Yeah,
you
I
just?
think I'm doing better now. I think something sort of didn't agree with me, and I just needed some sleep. I'm still having my sleep issues, but there is good news on that front.
Oh.
So my gym, I went to their website, and they had this great video showing all the things they were doing to try and protect for coronavirus. So every other cardio machine is off so that you're separated, and certain machines, if they're too close to other ones, like odd days this machine is open, even days this machine is open, and you can't do the others. They're policing like how many people can be at a station or whatever for all this kind of stuff. And I was like, this is awesome, this looks great, I think this is good for me. And then at the very end of the video it says we will revisit these precautions on June 1st.
No.
And there's nothing else on the website.
Okay, well.
So I went there.
Yeah, sure.
Just in the day with my mask on to look around and to talk to them about it. They're still doing all those things. So starting Monday, I'm going back to the gym.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think that's going to help a lot of things.
Sure.
The real downside of this week of homemaking is to discover my fitness level is so much lower than even my incredibly low bar as far as my fitness level is concerned. Like, doing anything exhausts me because we've just been sitting around. I'm sitting on my couch. I'm sitting like, that's all that's been happening for months now.
Yeah. And
it's really taken its toll. I have one project a day kind of thing. Like, I went shopping and I was beat.
Yeah.
One day I really cleaned the bathroom. I spent like an hour and I really worked on it. But after an hour I was like exhausted. So it's a slow process, but things are getting cleaned. I'm getting a sense of what's going on. This was a very experimental week. And then next week will be experimental in that I'll be going to the gym, and we'll see what that does with the whole process. But overall, I'm really digging this. I'm pleased at so many little things related to work that I don't have to worry about anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
I tried to get advice from my sister, who also is the stay-at-home one, on things. It didn't work too well because we discovered our situations are very different in a lot of ways. But I think if I run into issues, she'll be a good person to talk to. And also probably you, because you're essentially in the same boat. In fact, you're very much in the same boat of writer / homemaker.
Yeah, I mean, when the kids were still here, there was a lot of my time was sort of taken up with like stay-at-home dad type stuff. But,
yeah, and that's true for my sister too, except now that her kid's in college. Because yeah, it's a whole different ball game if you got kids. I understand that one.
Yeah.
And that's where it most commonly is, and that's the thing. I don't know a lot of people I can talk to where it's like, there aren't children in the house and one of you just doesn't work. Like, that doesn't come up too often.
Right.
So I'm searching that out. And a lot of mine is our house is a disaster. And a lot of it is going to be fixing that, but I'm really excited about fixing that.
Cool.
And I've already started with a bunch of that. And yeah, so yeah, no, I'm really jazzed about this at
Good.
this point.
Good.
So yeah, so that's good. Did you watch that documentary I told you about? Disclosure on Netflix?
No, I did finish Watchmen though.
Oh, I keep forgetting you hadn't watched that before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now I can't remember. What is your familiarity with the source material? Because you don't need it for this.
Right. Reputation.
Okay.
I mean, if you've not read the actual thing, which I haven't, you hear so much about it. It's made reference to even in other stories, and the movie. I did see the movie.
Oh, yeah. I guess the movie covers a fair bit of it. This is very much a sequel of the graphic novel, not the movie.
Right.
But
so yeah,
but again, I want to stress for people who haven't watched it yet. You pretty much don't need to know anything about the original Watchmen, and you could do this. Some parts will be less interesting, because Trish basically didn't know anything about it, and there was one episode that she felt was pulling back to a lot of old things without explaining them, and I didn't disagree. It's also an episode that doesn't matter nearly as much as the rest of the series. It's like the third episode in. Gives you a lot of backstory that doesn't sort of go anywhere.
Well, if you're patient, even that stuff will get explained later. I think for the whole series, together, I think they pretty much like go over the material, from the source material if they feel like it's necessary. Sometimes not in the same episode they won't, but somewhere down the line they will.
And they went to the effort of making a website, though, that was a journal by one of the lesser known characters in it, so they could explain a lot of the backstory.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's Damon Lindelof, so yeah, he'll tell you when he's fucking well and ready to tell you.
Right.
But so takes, feelings?
I think, first of all, I should say that one of the reasons I haven't read Watchmen is I just don't suspect it's my cup of tea, really.
I'm not sure how useful it is in this day and age.
Right,
it was groundbreaking at the time. I don't know how much it is now.
Well, and this is, to me, one of the successes of the show is how much it seemed to still capture that vibe, I guess you could say. Which I appreciate that as someone who critiques these things, I very much appreciate that they were able to do that. That said, it's not a vibe that I get into.
Yeah.
So that part of the whole project, I was like, okay, it's Watchmen. It's got a Watchmen vibe. All of that set aside, though, I do have to say, if I was teaching a class on how to really make television, like how to really do it right, I would show them this. I mean, this is how TV should always be done, in my opinion, because it's fantastic. I mean, you might not like it, for, like I said, you might not be your cup of tea, but you cannot deny the quality of it. The acting, the writing, the editing, their commitment to giving it a decent enough budget to do the things they wanted to do, how it's very self-contained. I mean, I've seen people talking about maybe there being a second season, and Lindelof and a few other people are like, no, we didn't really intend for there to be a second season. Yeah. He's saying,
I believe Lindelof said, if I come up with a story for a second season, I might be willing to do it, but right now I don't have one.
Well, and he also said that if someone else wants to make a second season, he's fine with him.
Well, of course he said that. He doesn't got any rights to this. So.
But the lead, the woman who played the female lead,
Regina
whose name
King. Yeah.
Okay, she said she's not doing it if Lindelof's not doing it.
Yeah.
So if someone has an idea for season 2, it's going to be someone's going to make something that takes place in a whole different part of the United States
Or
with a
it's
whole
gonna,
different,
it's gonna be Gene Smart trying to find Night Owl or whatever.
yeah, or whatever, sure, something like that. To me, it would be, I mean, unless someone, first of all, I think if someone had a really good idea that told a story somewhere else in the Watchmen universe, that would be the best way to go. But I also think I agree. It's self-contained.
Don't do it. Yeah.
It's, I mean, it really is one of the most perfect examples of modern television, what I think modern television should be, that you're going to find. Again, it might not be your cup of tea thematically. Maybe you're not into superheroes. Maybe you're not into whatever. But the artistry and the craft of it it's worth seeing just for that, especially if you're a person that enjoys well-crafted television.
And I loved the nature in which it was brought up, because the original Watchmen, at its heart, has so much to do with the Cold War, and to a lesser extent with Vietnam and things like that. And it was a product of its time, and it was very good at that. The basic premise for all of Watchmen is, what if superheroes were real, but in our like real sense? Like a lot of TV shows like pretend that, but this is like the reality of actually having superheroes would be such a fucking disaster on society. And
right.
they're very, and like what kind of people would really want to do that, and what would that mean and all that. But that was very Cold War focused. This one is very race relations focused in a way that was eye-opening to me. It's so weird that in recent years, the things that have really been, I mean, I'm getting my news and all that crap lately, and I'm looking at The Root every day and all that, but the thing that's really starting to jar my perspective is fucking Black Panther, fucking Watchmen, fucking Lovecraft Country. It's all fictitious fantasy stuff that nonetheless deals with the issue on a level that really resonates with me. And this really resonated, beginning with that first scene. That very first scene in Tulsa, 1921, when that aired, we're watching it, and I turn to Trish and I say, something about this scene feels like it's based on a real thing.
Yeah.
And the day afterwards, the internet exploded with, did this really happen? And all the black people came out and said, yeah. Did nobody ever explain to you about history between the Civil War and the Civil Rights Movement? Right. And all the white people had to be like, no, apparently not. No, we learned like a lot of Democrats in the South, and we learned about the Jim Crow voting test thing that was bad, and that's all we learned. And they're like, oh no, there were decades of domestic terrorism all over the place, let me tell you.
Yep. That's right.
And so much has come out of that. And I got a bunch of that from Lovecraft Country as well, including talking about the Tulsa Massacre, which I was like, I know about that, but only for a few months because of Watchmen.
Yeah, let's see. I think the first time I'd heard of it, the Tulsa thing, was not very long ago. I mean, it was, I knew about it before I watched the show, but I think I read about it in some article that was, I think, related to Juneteenth, and it was after the whole George Floyd thing, so it's recently, and I'd never I'd never heard of it. I don't.
Part of it was because Trump was having a rally there.
Yeah.
Juneteenth, and they're
that's
like,
right.
Fuck
That's
you.
what it was. That's what it was. And so I was looking at that, and I thought, and I mean, or maybe at some point in the past someone had mentioned it and I'd forgotten, but I don't think I would have forgotten. I just don't think I ever knew it.
No, but it became a much more common thing that pissed off a lot more people, white people, because Watchmen suddenly unearthed all this stuff. And there's great books on these things. And this is only one little bit, there are so many horrific stories of because one thing that I didn't know that in retrospect, of fucking course, as soon as all these freed slaves who were in the South were citizens and could vote, they fucking voted, and they voted for a bunch of black people. And so a bunch of local and state legislators suddenly were black people, and white people fucking murdered them.
Yeah.
Or stood up and seceded from legislatures and things like that. And like a whole bunch of really fucked up shit happened for decades.
Yeah. I mean, that stuff I knew. I just didn't know about the specific, like Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street, they called it. I did that at Tulsa specifically. I didn't know about. But what you were saying about
people legit got in their private plane so they could drop bombs on it, basically. They had old leftover like grenades and things, and they would drop them.
Yeah, I mean, it was not, I mean, I think a lot of what a lot of white people, or, you know, what I learned, and everyone in my class was white, was that there were, you know, people they couldn't go to certain hotels and they had to sit at a certain place on the bus.
Oh yeah,
and those things,
segregation. Yeah, we learned about segregation.
Those things were bad and disgusting even. And I think when we got older, we learned about, you know, people getting lynched and how terrible that was. But things of the scale of the Tulsa massacre or whatever, no, we never heard about stuff like that.
And attempts to overthrow state governments.
Yeah, right. Never heard about that growing up. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Which is weird because that's a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something you think, I mean, you'd think just based on what it is, that would come up in your typical civics class or American history class. It's like, that's a pretty big deal. And so then you have to consider that this wasn't just overlooked. You can't just overlook a thing like as serious as that. This is an editorial choice really that's being made. And then you have to ask, why would that be? And well, the answer.
They gave us a lot of deals about the Holocaust.
Yeah.
But not so much about the shit that our people were doing to ourselves here.
Yeah, it's just crazy. It's crazy.
It's awful. But super important. And this is where I'm getting this stuff. I'm very excited for the Lovecraft Country TV show. I saw the trailer and it looks really good. But that book was hugely eye-opening too.
What book?
Lovecraft Country.
Oh, that's a book?
Yes. It's a book weirdly written by a white dude. But it's set in 1950s America, and it's got cosmic horror stuff in it, but a whole lot of the horror related to it is also just straight up racism. And it basically involves like about 3 families in South Chicago, some black families in South Chicago, and interactions that they had and certain weird, again, Lovecraftian shit happening. But also, like, one of the families owns and runs a travel agency that is the fictional analog for the Green Book. They write what in the fiction is called the Safe Negro Travel Guide.
Oh.
And so that becomes and like, I mean, highly recommend this book to everyone. It's an amazing book. And it's a lot of sort of interconnected stories, but it is really good Lovecraftian horror while also really heavily dealing with race from the perspective of black people in Jim Crow America. And some really fascinating and sometimes kind of clever compare and contrast of the horror of all this scary power and other dimensions and stuff, and the horror of just being black people in 1950s America.
Yeah.
In some very creative ways. I highly recommend this book. I've been meaning to read it for years. And yeah, now J.J. Abrams and Jordan Peele are executive producing on a TV show of it, which I've seen the trailer for and it looks incredible. But yeah, I'm excited, and I love the fact that so many of these fictional fantasy things are nevertheless teaching about these things, and I know it's effective because it's teaching me.
Sure. Yeah, that's right.
So it's not like, I think somebody who watches this would like, because there have been things where like I didn't learn, like a documentary, I'm like, I didn't learn anything new, but I think it's good for people to know. But this, I'm like, no, I'm learning things from this. And even I say Black Panther because that's a real thing, because the metaphor in Black Panther is crazy. Wakanda is this, first of all, it's, look at black people different, but then it's also like, why the villain has a very good point in Black Panther is what it comes down to.
Right.
The villain's kind of right. He does it wrong, but he's kind of right. And also you understand a little bit of why he does it wrong. Like I'm really impressed with that movie as well. And that movie really made me think about things differently. So yeah. So Watchmen.
Yeah, I think people should watch it. I mean,
and now that it is July 2nd, bad news, it was free to watch on HBO all through the month of June.
So you have to be like subscribed like we are to watch.
Yeah. HBO Max, HBO Now, get on it.
Well, another thing that I liked about it that maybe other people won't is it felt like it felt like a comic book. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
oh yeah.
It almost felt like there was a comic book and then they used the comic book as the storyboard for the show. Which I love when I see a comic book thing and it feels like that. I just love that. It's not just a TV show.
Like the Watchmen movie, which literally was based on a comic, and in many cases had shots that were taken from the actual panels of the comic, and yet fucked it up.
Yeah, well, well, you also thought, speaking of Alan Moore properties that you thought weren't done very well in the movie, you weren't very impressed with V for Vendetta either.
I'm torn. I think V for Vendetta is a piss poor adaptation of the original material.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a bad movie.
Now, he thought so too, because he felt like
he has hated 100% of the things that have been turned into movies that were his.
Well, but specifically about that one, he said that the Wachowskis Americanized it. Like they turned it into a critique of George Bush or whatever.
Yeah.
And all of the uniquely British aspects of it he was making a comment about Britain and British imperialism. And he thought
British politics is very different than American politics.
And he thought they made it American. I could kind of see his point, but
there are trade-offs for these things, because I saw V for Vendetta before I read V for Vendetta.
Yeah.
And the movie made me read the comic.
Mm.
So if it weren't for that movie that is a poor adaptation, I never would have read the original. And Watchmen came out, I saw a trailer for Watchmen. I had read that comic and disliked it thoroughly. But seeing that trailer made me reread it, and then I loved it. Oh. So if not for that shitty movie, I would not have fallen in love with that. And Trish and I never watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, and then we watched that terrible Shyamalan movie, and it made us want to watch the original, which we did, and it was great.
Yeah, the original is great. We should watch it again, because
I've never watched Legend of Korra, though.
Yeah, well, we haven't watched that, and I don't think we finished the Airbender ones for some reason. Really? Yeah, okay. I think we only got about halfway. We did like them. We liked them a lot, but we didn't finish.
We definitely finished. Yeah. But yeah, so sometimes these shitty adaptations very useful.
Well, he thought that by sort of paring out the Britishness of it, that it didn't address important themes that he was trying to address. But then when he sort of enumerated what those themes were, I got all those themes from the movie. So I think he took the things that he didn't like being taken out, and I think he sort of overestimated how it damaged the overall story. I also think that the Wachowskis, a lot of the stuff they trimmed out of it really for any film probably needed to be. And they probably did I mean, when they were paring it down, their editorial vision probably was influenced by their American politics, probably not even on purpose. But
No,
I don't,
I'm sure they tried to do it really well.
yeah.
The Wachowskis have a singular vision, and I don't mean that as a compliment. I mean that everything the Wachowskis has ever made has the same theme and the same message.
Well, that's probably true.
And I say that with the possible exception of Speed Racer, which I have not seen. However, there are other Wachowski properties I have not seen that I'm still 100% confident are still on that same track.
I really liked Speed Racer.
You are the only person in the world,
Yeah,
I think, including the Wachowskis.
No, I liked it. I thought it was pretty cool.
You're it. You are it.
I liked it. I used to watch Speed Racer when I was a kid.
So did I. I loved the original, although it doesn't age real well.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the film captures it or anything, but what they were doing in the film was pretty interesting, and I kind of liked it. I don't know if I thought it was like super great or anything. I think I was kind of hoping that it would do well enough that they'd make another one, and then that would maybe be better.
Did not happen.
But I liked it. So I don't know. What else about your week? Because I'm kind of interrupting when I talk, I guess.
Not a lot. I am still playing Control. I am thinking about stopping playing Control.
Why?
I really love the game.
Okay.
It's an incredible game. It is pretty hard.
Oh.
And it's dark. Everything I'm dealing with right now, all the media I'm consuming makes me uncomfortable. And I'm at a point where I really need some cheer. I'm about ready to just watch Great British Bake Off because I just need something fucking cheery.
Well, that's the whole reason you went and played the Planet,
yes
game. What's it called?
No Man's Sky.
Yeah, No Man's Sky. That's
although No Man's Sky not super cheery either in a lot of places.
Oh, okay.
No Man's Sky made me decide who lives and who dies a couple of times.
Yeah. I see. That's fun.
But like, I'm reading Xenogenesis, the Octavia Butler thing. It's incredible. It is all about how moral ambiguity is. You've got aliens and humans, and the aliens are trying to help the humans, and if they don't, the humans are going to die, but the humans don't like the way the aliens are helping them, and some of them would rather die, and there's issues of consent and choice versus survival, and it's basically nobody's right and nobody's wrong, and and it's gut-wrenching at times, and it's brilliant, and it's very compelling reading, but it's like not happy. It's like, yeah, here's a situation where there is definitively no right answer. People are going to suffer sort of no matter what. And that's really rough. Control is this dark conspiracy thing, and like our protagonist is now finding out she's been screwed over her whole life, and she came to rescue her brother, and that's having terrible consequences, and there's external forces, and it's also really remarkably hard. It's very frustrating sometimes to play, and I know I haven't even gotten to some of the worst of the bosses.
So are there no levels of difficulty you can set?
There are not.
Wow.
Yes, which is why it sucks. I have a friend who months ago stopped playing because she couldn't get past one of the very first fight scenes. That's before like you unlock the ability to spend ability points and stuff. Like before you've unlocked the mechanics of the game. She can't get past it. And I got past it, but it took me a few days and looking shit up online.
Yeah,
like, that game is hard for no reason. Once you get the hang of it, I got much better, and it's very satisfying, but it's really challenging. And I don't like challenging games normally. Right now, I really don't want that. If I had a Nintendo Switch, I'd just be playing fucking Animal Crossing. It'd be beautiful. And then meanwhile, we started the second season of Pose, because the second season of Pose is on Netflix. Super psyched. Pose, as you may recall, is set in the 1980s ballroom scene, which is nothing but trans queer characters of color being thrown out by their parents and living homeless on the streets of New York and banding together in houses to do ballroom. And it's a beautiful TV show. I love it to death. Some incredible performances. I recommend it strongly for anyone. And the first season managed to not make me cry very much. They didn't shy away from shit. There was some reality in there. There was the reality of AIDS. There was the reality of homelessness. There was a bunch of stuff. But there was a lot of uplifting stuff and a lot about chosen families and people being there for each other when they don't have to be. And it was wonderful and heartwarming. This season also really good. This season they jumped to 1990.
Oh.
So we are really in the AIDS crisis. We have watched 4 episodes so far. There has been at least one funeral per episode. Trish says we got to take a pause. Like, it's great, but it's a lot right now. So just everything is sad. And I can't handle that right now.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a nightmare for so many people back then.
And they're talking like they don't know the future because they don't. So they're like, in a few years, we're going to fix this and it's all going to be fine. This is also when Vogue, the Madonna song came out. So there's a contingency of them who thinks this is going to turn their world into the mainstream. And they're really confident about it. And I'm just like, I was alive then. That's not what happened. But they don't know that. It's insane. Like, the only thing that they've got AZT. That's the only thing they have to get rid of. Remember how fucked up AZT was as a medicine? But it was the only thing. But I'm like, oh my God. Like, it's amazing. I still highly recommend it. But this second season, whew. So I need something easier and cheerier in a video game or a TV show or something. Nuts.
You know, the thing about stories like that, though, is, I mean, we've talked about this in the past, about people, sort of putting effort into a cause or whatever. And sometimes we've even discussed, what's the point of even doing that sometimes. Of course, we always have to remember that, women wouldn't have gotten the right to vote if someone somewhere wasn't working for that and worked their whole life and died with it not being realized. I mean,
yeah.
When it comes to these things, the analogy I like to use is you're building, it's like you're building a wall. And the goal has always...
Build the wall.
The goal has to always be you put at least one brick in that wall. Now, that brick might be one of the foundational bricks, and so it's down below the ground and nobody will ever see it. Or maybe it's above the ground, but it's like with all the other bricks. And so someone could maybe discover it someday, but probably not. Only a few of the bricks are going to be the finishing bricks at the top, and those people are going to get all this fame and glory and everything like that. If you are the person who believes in this cause, the last thing you should care about is where your brick ends up. All you should care about is getting a brick in that wall. And it can be frustrating and it can be challenging, and you can sometimes wonder what good's it going to do. But the point is, every single brick in that wall is eventually going to count, even the ones that are buried and will never be seen by anybody. So you just have to, you just have to be committed to getting at least that one brick in that wall and whatever other wall that you believe in. And that's what's critically important. And so the people you're talking about back then who were talking about, Vogue comes out and this is gonna, make things go mainstream. Maybe that didn't happen, but somehow when that happened and when people responded to it and put out certain things in the world, that put, bricks in that wall. And maybe it didn't have the impact they wanted or hoped for. And maybe it didn't happen in their lifetime, but that brick was important for somebody else. So it's discouraging.
You keep turning
sure,
to the screen to look at me, so it absolutely looks like you're reading from a script. And you keep checking for the next line.
Well, I'm just saying.
No, and that's.
I really appreciate stories like that because it reminds me.
Well, and there's a lot to this of trying to help with that versus living your life. There's a major arc in this series involving one of the characters becoming politically active, and it's difficult because these are characters who are subsisting barely. Like they're just trying to get enough money to eat. They're like, and but then there's some pressure for them to get like involved politically and potentially get arrested and shit like this, and it's there's some tension there.
Well, it's always those people, though. I mean, it's always the people going through it who are the ones that are building the most.
Yeah.
I mean, it always is. I mean, they can get allies and things, and I mean real allies, not the ones that claim to be allies and aren't.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if that wall ever gets actually built and people are admiring it, they were the ones. I mean, just about all the bricks are them. So, yeah, that's. And it's sad that this kind of work even has to be done. I mean, how hard is it really to respect one another and to love one another and to treat one another like full human beings? It just seems like it should be so easy, but I mean, here we are.
Everyone should watch it, and Jazz will back me up on this. Pose. Both of the existing seasons are on Netflix now, so watch them. And they're not that long. First one's like 8 episodes, second one's like 10. So check them out. And they are good. And the first season is not as rough as you would think. I was very scared to watch Pose for a long time because I'm like, this is just a story of a very tragic time from some people who were marginalized really heavy. And it is, but they don't luxuriate on that. That's not the point of the show. It's a very much triumph of human spirit kind of thing without ignoring the difficulties. But it's really good, and I highly recommend it. And it's, again, I don't know, did you ever end up watching Saturday Church? That movie I told you about?
No. With
the kid who is secretly he lives with his mom and his little brother, and he dresses in his mom's clothes when she's not around and stuff.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about it.
Yeah. That movie is along the same lines, and may have had some of the same people behind the camera. It has like half the cast from Pose in it because it's real trans actors in most cases. So. Mm-hmm. That was a big deal. And that's the thing, too. If you want to see a bunch of transgender actors, actual transgender actors playing actual transgender characters, Pose is good for that, too. And fucking Billy Porter, who's a goddamn treasure. And MK Rodriguez, who I've told my wife recently I would absolutely leave her for. So I am in love with MK Rodriguez. That's why we finally watched the second season, because it was on our list, but we hadn't got around to it. But we watched Disclosure, and MK Rodriguez was on Disclosure, and I'm in love with MK Rodriguez. And so then I was like, we got to watch Pose. Because she is arguably it's an ensemble show, but she is arguably the main character, and I love her to death. All right.
So when after they do the time jump, the same characters are still.
Oh yeah, it's all the same people.
Oh, okay. I guess I assumed it was different or something.
No, it goes from 84 to 90, and it's still just all their lives.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Or maybe 87 to 90. I can't remember.
Oh, that's not.
Because we jumped around. We had some flashbacks in the first season, so I get confused about where we were exactly. But
right.
No, it's all the same people living in the same places, and a lot of houses rise and fall during that time, so it gets confusing. But yeah. All right. So let's draw a hat thing.
Yep.
Hi, Ezzy. You're just in time. You want to read it? What's that? You can't read or speak English? Okay, fine. I'll do it. This one is from Mark McKibben. So glad to have you
Mark.
back.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. All right, this is a question we've got several times already, but we can talk about it again. Now that you're recording the podcast remotely, have you ever considered bringing in special guests, guest speakers, more servants for TMTH?
More servants?
Yes.
And the answer is yes.
Yes, we have. We have discussed it. I think we should do it soon. Well, or I don't know. Given it's not that far anymore. maybe episode 500 is when we really do it, and then we can do it more after that. Because at this point, episode 500, I'm envisioning we get a bunch of people on here.
That'd be great.
We have a big old Zoom party. And
Yeah,
then after that, we can start doing it. Because I really am liking this idea of bringing in guests because it's so easy now.
Yeah, really easy.
And because our listener base is tiny but fierce. And a lot of you talk on the blog, which we appreciate, and you're all writing in, and that's wonderful. And you should still talk on the blog, themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com. Wait, that's the email. Themagicaltalkinghat.com is the blog. But I think it'd be fun to have some of y'all on here, and a lot of you showed interest.
Plus, there's no limit to how far away the person can conceivably be.
Absolutely. Craig has expressed interest. Azure Talent has expressed interest. Jazz. Who else? There's a fourth one I'm missing. Was it Beth, maybe?
I think Beth.
Maybe it was Beth. Somebody
she
sort
was-
of late to the game.
Oh, late to
mentioned
the
it.
game? Not Beth.
Yeah,
She's been with us a long time.
Like a couple weeks after, because we had a specific episode where we asked people.
Oh, yeah. I
And
don't
they said it
remember.
later. And I think it's Beth, because I'm not sure who else it would be. Mark hasn't. Mark, I don't know where you are, but if you're interested, and I can't imagine you wouldn't be, let us know. Blood Sparrow's in that. I don't remember if she said that or not this week. But she's on the blog now.
Yep.
A whole bunch, and that's been
Doing
cool.
her old shtick.
Yeah.
It's like old times.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we should get on, but yeah, I don't know. We're only 15 weeks away from 500. Wow, my severance won't even have run out by then.
15 weeks. Yep.
ACT is really nice to you if you've been there for a few years.
Yeah, that's good.
ACT was really nice in general and how they've handled this. Next week on Tuesdays when I go in and collect all my stuff. And then the little thing you sign up there, like, do you need a box? And I checked yes, and I think it's adorable that they think I'm going to be able to fit all of my crap in one box. I have
you got a lot.
so much crap in my cube. I have toys. I have all sorts of toys and crap. As my boss's boss used to say, you got a lot of crap. I have a lot of crap. So, a lot of things I got to pick up. But, yeah, so that's the next week. And are you doing any 4th of July business?
Going to the farm, we bought fireworks yesterday.
Oh.
Yep. We used to get fireworks. I mean, when we get together on the 4th down on the farm, we would, because you could just go over the Missouri border, and get fireworks.
Yeah.
And for us down there, it was like, an hour or so drive. And so even after I moved here, we'd get together for 4th of July, and then they would go run and get something, and I'd pitch.
Illegal fireworks, just so we're clear here.
Well, back then, I guess they were, sure. But I
If
mean,
you have to go to Missouri, they're illegal.
they're illegal to buy and sell. You're
You're telling
illegal,
me they are not illegal to use in Iowa?
and they were illegal to use.
And I don't know why we're using the past tense.
Oh, they're not illegal to use now. Where we're going to be using them, they're illegal in town here in Coralville or in Iowa City.
Fireworks that you have to go to Missouri for to buy.
No. You can buy them in Iowa now.
All right.
I picked them up in Amana,
Okay.
a little Amana. So, and you can, not only can you sell them and buy them in Iowa now, you can shoot them off in select, certain places. Pretty much.
I would think it would be weird if you could buy and sell them but couldn't use them in
You
Iowa.
can use them anywhere in Iowa except where you can't, which is usually city limits. But I mean, I don't know about where you
indoors.
live. Yeah, I don't know about where you live, but there's fireworks going around in our neighborhood all the time
Yeah, it's fucking pissing me off.
for like the last month.
Scares the shit out of me, scares the shit out of the cats. Ezzy's like weirdly cool about it. She's not startled, she's just mad. So she's sitting next to me and something outside goes pop, pop, pop. And she doesn't move. But then like 2 seconds later, she starts going, and then she finally just gets up and leaves.
Someone in our cul-de-sac even is doing it. I don't
Some of
know.
them are doing it when it's still light out.
Yeah. And at like 2 a.m.
Yeah, yeah.
It's now what's weird is
People are trash.
that lots of people are experiencing this. You're clear across. You're
Yep.
about as far away from me as you can get and still be in the Iowa City /Coralville area.
Because
and
you'd
you're
have to
experiencing
be
it.
in a really good neighborhood for it not to happen. And the definition of a really good neighborhood is one that doesn't have humans in it.
Well, anyway, yeah, it's happening a lot. But I mean, what we bought, we're not going to fire them off until we're out in rural
Yeah.
area where it's legal and safe.
No, I was just making fun of your law-breaking childhood there.
Well, it wasn't. I mean, I was an adult when we were doing that, so
Yeah.
Yep. But I mean, I can tell you this though: if the county sheriff, which it would have had to have been the county sheriff, because we lived out in the county, obviously, if the county sheriff drove by while we were letting off fireworks or whatever, he wouldn't have done anything.
So you're saying the whole area was just lawless mayhem.
I mean, if we were doing it,
Did you sell moonshine too?
we didn't, because we don't do that. Other people might have. I don't know. But yeah, I mean,
Billies.
on the 4th of July anyway, they wouldn't have done anything. Now, if they were catching us like some other time when we were setting off fireworks, they might, just to give us a ticket or something, But and then after he gave us the ticket, he'd sit down and watch the rest of the fireworks. I mean, that's kind of the way it is in the country. There's never cops out there. You can really do whatever you want. I mean, that's the way it used to be.
Marrying cows.
I mean, nothing would stop you.
Fun fact, Williams family, historically, there's a plaque up and everything, had one of the first meth labs in the whole country.
No, not right. Not true.
All right. On that note, we should get out of here.
Okay.
Go to the blog and tell us your thoughts on Watchmen and also race. Yeah, go ahead. See what the fuck I care. And let us know if you want to be on the podcast, because it could happen.
Could happen.
Especially if you have a camera better than mine. Also, write in to the podcast, themagicaltalkinghead@gmail.com, and then your stuff we'll talk about it here. So do that. And I've been asleep a lot today. And then that's pretty much it. And then listen again next week, and it'll all be good.
I'll be good.
All right. And I was gonna hit the wrong button. All right. And that's yeah. So, and remember, methamphetamine, crystal meth started at Williams' house.